Hello and welcome to The Rational Live for August 14th, 2020. How's it going? Another week, another round of news stories. Also, of course, I'll take chats, super chats throughout the stream as always. Reminder before we get going, rationalnational.com/join. That's the Patreon page. Help support the show. You can also be a YouTube member, give on super chat. There's other links below the video. Streamlabs, I think there's a link there. Various ways to help the show. Also, I have a daily, Monday to Thursday, Twitch show in the mornings, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It is it's a fun, laid-back time. So come join the chat in the mornings. I go over some, breaking news items, whatever's happening in the morning, and discuss what I may cover that day. It's a fun time. So come check out that Twitch show Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. I also want to show you this weekend, tomorrow, I am planning to be on Twitch to do some gaming. So if you're into that kind of thing, come check me out. Let me show you my new angle. What's up? That's the angle I'll be likely using, as that is my monitor, my gaming monitor. So I may be using that angle during that gaming stream. But yeah, that's what's going on right now. All right, let me give you a short breakdown of what to expect in today's stream. So starting off with a Trump clip of a reporter calling him out for his lies. It's pretty fantastic. Then discussing the state of Toronto right now and COVID. I'm also going to get to another Canadian story that involves psychedelics. Don't want to give too much away. You'll see what that's about. Also, Jason Johnson. Jason Johnson is back on Twitter, making a fool of himself. I'll discuss what happened today. Also, the DNC gives AOC 60 seconds to speak. We'll discuss that. And also, I just realized I did not formalize my notes on this next story, or story coming up later. Senate race. Ed Markey, Joe Kennedy. I have a new ad that Ed Markey has out. It is fantastic. I'm also going to show you recent polling in that race. And I'm also going to show you a couple clips from their recent debate, which was largely ignored because that debate happened the same day that Kamala Harris was announced as the VP. So a lot of people didn't even know there's a debate going on between Ed Markey and Kennedy. But I'll show you a couple clips from that. And I think that's about it. I'm also going to end on a couple of stories I didn't really finish for various reasons. One of them, I just didn't want to spend the energy once I started getting to the... I'll discuss the whole thing, but once I started to put energy into this story, it just sucked all the life out of me, so I stopped taking notes. I'll get to what that story was very late in the stream. And I'm also going to show you, I guess, I don't know, what Trump... more of what's happening with the post office. As there's more from that story. I did a lot of coverage of that yesterday in a video, but I'll get to a little more news coming out of that. All right. You ready? Ready for the first story? A White House reporter asked Trump why he's a big fat liar. Or more specifically, asked Trump if he regrets lying so goddamn much. Now, this, let me show you the clip first. It is very entertaining. But also Trump's reaction to it, I think, tells us something as well. But check this out.
President, after 3.5 years, do you regret it all the lying you've done to the American people? On
all the what?
All the lying, all the dishonesties.
That who has done?
You have done. Tens of thousands.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask about the payroll tax.
All right. You can see there, Donald Trump had absolutely no interest in answering that question. But it also goes to show you, look, if he didn't think he was a liar, like let's take him out and put someone else in there who is somebody who lies at least less. I know every president lies at some point, but Trump, he lies about everything. Anybody in that position who doesn't view themselves as a liar, they would have an answer to that question. They would either say, like, what are you talking about? Give me some examples. Are you crazy? Like, how did I lie? Tell me. Trump knows he's a big fat liar. So he just ignores the question and moves on. And there was a follow-up tweet here from the reporter. This is a HuffPost White House reporter that asked the question. SV Dot or Dote. I'm not sure how to say his last name. But SV here tweeting out. For 5 years, I've been waiting or wanting to ask him that. So finally got his opportunity. And to give you an example of Trump's off-the-wall lying, this was a lie during that same press conference that he told.
I have two questions. The first one on domestic politics. There are claims.
Can't understand a word
There are
you're
claims
saying.
circulating in social media that Kamala Harris is not eligible to run for vice president because she was an anchor baby, I quote. Do you or can you definitively say whether or not Kamala Harris is eligible, meets the legal requirements to run as vice president?
So I just heard that. I heard it today that she doesn't meet the requirements. And by the way, the lawyer that wrote that piece is a very highly qualified, very talented lawyer. I have no idea if that's right. I would have assumed the Democrats would have checked that out before she gets chosen to run for vice president. But that's a very serious. You're saying that they're saying that she doesn't qualify because she wasn't born in this country.
I have two questions. The first one on domestic politics. There are claims.
Can't understand a word
There are
you're saying.
claims circulating in social media that Kamala Harris is not eligible to be.
All right. I didn't realize that the comment had gone back around. But there you go. Look, there is lying and then there is birtherism. This is the kind of lying that happens under a neo-fascist government. Lying about everything. I mean, the thing with the birtherism as well, Donald Trump actually had to end up apologizing, or I'm not sure if he had to, but he ended up apologizing back in 2015 about the Obama birtherism. Actually, in fact, apology is the wrong word. I think he just came out and had a press conference and said, you know, there's nothing to it, essentially. So to then go back and use this tactic now against Kamala Harris, which obviously is racist. There's no other reason for him to discuss this. It's obviously racist. He should have rejected it outright, but no, he's going to continue discussing how this, you know, sounds very serious, maybe a serious issue. They should have checked it out first. There's no, Kamala Harris was born in the U.S. This whole thing is ridiculous. But for him to try and use this tactic now after it failed in the 2016 election, or at least he felt it was not benefiting him enough to the point that he actually came out and said it wasn't real. I mean, he's really running out of ideas here. Like they have nothing to work with. After I covered the VP announcement, I did a separate video discussing the conservative reaction to it, because there are, of course, legitimate criticisms of Kamala Harris's record, of course. But those criticisms are not coming from the right. They have nothing to work with. They are both trying to call her too far left and too far right. They're saying, oh, she's part of the radical left. Trump called her one of the most liberal senators, which is just not true. But then at the same time, the Trump White House is also saying that Kamala Harris had a racist history as a prosecutor. Well, like, which is it? Is she too far left or is she too far right? Or, you know, was she not born in this country? Like, they're trying absolutely everything and they have nothing to work with. But this is the result of a president that, you know, lies all the time. And just to give you an idea here, I mean, there's several counts of people that have kept track of this. That would be the worst job in the world, by the way, to try and keep track of Trump's lies. But here's from The Guardian. They say that in July, the Washington Post reported that Trump had told more than 20,000 false or misleading claims over the course of his presidency. Now, again, yes, every politician lies. Every single one. But 20,000. And you know Trump's lies are unique in his ability to find new ways to lie every single day. So I just found this moment to be amusing, and I think Trump is fully aware that he is a big fat liar. All right. That is the Trump story. Actually, I don't think I have any more Trump stories today. I think that was the Trump story. Until we get to the post office stuff later on. But, all right. I think I heard some super chats, right? Let me check that. In fact, when I started that video or that segment, I had a loud audio notification that was likely caught on the mic. But what are you going to do? Also, of course, if you're new to the stream, as I say every week, if you're new to the stream, I'm the only person here. So there's going to be, a pause in the action every now and then as I set things up or check the chats. All right, super chat here. Mr. Sir saying, going to cry. My family thinks that funding the USPS is a liberal plot to commit voting fraud and take over the country. I feel for you. I have no idea. I would have no idea how to act in that situation. It's weird too, because the post office, I covered this in my video, I think it was yesterday on the post office. The USPS has the highest approval rating or favorability rating out of any agency. The post office has a 91% favorable rating, which is incredible. So the weird conspiratorial anger around the post office may just be more recent because of Trump's attacks on it, as generally in the past, people have been pretty supportive of the post office. I mean, think about it. What for-profit company is going to think it's feasible for them to send medicine to the middle of nowhere for pennies? Like that, the post office is a service that people need. No private company can fill that gap without creating incredible expense for the people using it. Mikey Kingston back with his Baba Booey. What's up, Mikey? Thank you for your weekly Baba Booey. Much appreciated. All right, let me get to the next story here as I set it up. Also, good to see Winston and Rogue Femme in the moderating chair. Added a couple new mods recently. as the chat got a little crazy sometimes. So there were enough people complaining where I had to respond to the complaints that the chat maybe got a little too wild. So hopefully it's a little more, a little easier to have a conversation in the chat now. I hope. Yes, hit that like button. Hit that like button. That also helps. That helps with the that helps get this video up in trending. All right, next story. So, as of last night, Toronto hospitals reported no COVID patients for the first time since the beginning of the pandemic, really back in March. Now, before I get to the bad news, let me start with this good news. Reported here by BlogTO. Toronto hospitals report 0 COVID-19 patients for first time in months. And you see here nurses, doctors gathered around, posing for a picture, happy that there are no patients with COVID in the hospital. That is until likely soon, as this came out literally hours later. From the Toronto Star, breaking, around 550 people may have been exposed to COVID-19 at Brass Rail over 4 days, Toronto Public Health says. This is something, unfortunately, I'm afraid we're going to have to keep dealing with. Because when you begin to open up society, begin to open up businesses, allow people to go into bars or go into restaurants, you're risking this. There's just no avoiding this. So an employee at the Brass Rail apparently had COVID-19 over the course of 4 days and may have exposed over 500 people to the virus. There has been no other updates since, so this came out in the morning. We're going to see if this employee, though most employees, in my experience, are wearing masks. So it's possible that he maybe didn't, or he or she didn't expose the virus to as many people as they potentially think he could have. But this is always going to exist as long as we continue opening the system when we're still dealing with this pandemic and have no vaccine to deal with it. And this also goes into another discussion about schools. So schools in Ontario are going to be opening up, and they recently announced some new funding to help with reopening schools. But the announcement of that funding also comes on the heels of Ontario's 4 major education unions alleging that the current back-to-school strategy breaks provincial law by violating occupational health and safety legislation. The unions, which represent more than 190,000 teachers and education workers, issued a press release Thursday afternoon saying the plan fails to meet legal health and safety requirements and that teachers and students are not protected against COVID-19. They raised red flags over the lack of mask requirements for children under 10, larger class sizes, poor ventilation in schools, and lack of adequate screenings and safeguards for students. So, when you see here, this tweet is basically what I was going to say. Chris Kelly here tweeting out, parental thought bubble. Bars in Ontario opened with social distancing requirements for all guests. Recently, one bar employee potentially exposed 500 people. Schools in Ontario will not have the same social distancing rules, and Doug Ford doesn't expect community spread. I see no way around this. This is I wish there were easy answers to this, and clearly there isn't, because nobody has an easy answer. There's no easy solution to this. You either keep things shut down until the virus goes away, or there's a vaccine, which again, it's not really going to go away until there's a vaccine that is widely available and widely taken by most people. Or you slowly open things up and basically have to just hope that whether it's your child going to school, whether it's you going to a restaurant or a bar, just have to hope that you're not going to get it. That based on the odds, it's unlikely that you're going to be exposed to it, but it's always going to be there. So you see right now what's happening with schools in the U.S., where they open schools at when the U.S. is at like a peak of experiencing continued increases in COVID cases. I don't know how you do that, because if you looked at I had another video on this recently. If you look at Israel, they brought cases down to very low levels back in May. Then they opened up schools near the end of May, and then cases shot back up. And it's because kids can spread the virus. Yes, they may not have the severe symptoms as adults do. At least most kids don't. But that doesn't mean they can't get it and spread it to other people. So when it comes to what they're doing in Ontario, they are cutting the class sizes in half when it comes to high schools, as older kids are more likely to experience the symptoms and more likely to spread it. But when it comes to younger students, class sizes are essentially staying the same. And they're just, sure, they're putting more funding into reopening, but is it going to be enough to squash this? Unlikely. There's almost certainly going to be breakouts because of school openings. There's just no way around that. So I side with the union here, with the teachers union. It is not safe. It is simply not safe to open the schools right now. But you're kind of caught in the situation where if you don't open, then when are you going to open? And when you open, you're likely to shut back down soon after opening, because someone's going to get it, someone's going to spread it. There's just no easy solution here. All right, hopefully the only depressing story of the day. Coronavirus is just not going away. And I maybe should have brought up the fact that, let me do this right now. Should have brought up the case difference between the US and Canada. So I bring this up every now and then. So just to take a look here at the difference between, the U.S. and them opening up schools right now in the peak of the pandemic versus Canada doing it. Cases look pretty good here in terms of keeping the number low. There hasn't really been any spikes since the numbers have come down, but schools haven't been opened. And as I was discussing earlier with Israel, let me just show you what happened there, in case you didn't see my video on that. Take a look. See right there between April 30th and June 9th? That's in May when they opened schools, and look what happened in the cases. Shot back up. Daily new confirmed COVID-19 cases per million people. Again, this is all per capita, so it's all relative. Cases shot back up after opening schools. Now, the U.S. numbers are a little less reliable now, since this downward trend here, you see, this most recent downward trend, that happened at the exact same time that the Trump administration took control of data, of the COVID data from the CDC. So apparently they may be collecting the data differently. That makes it appear like they're doing just fine, when in reality, we know that's not the case. But just to give you a little update there. Samantha Sider says Ed Markey ad is the best one since Orfalia's Bernie ad. Yes. I will show that ad in my Ed Markey piece. Yeah, it is a fantastic ad. Jenny Nix says UCP and Alberta are taking advantage of opening schools. I got to be honest, I've not followed what's happening in Alberta at all. I've had no time following what's happening in Ontario. But yeah, I mean, Alberta is not. It's not a place I'd want to live personally, based on the politics of that province. All right. Gotta prep this next story. This next story is something I should talk about more often, because I do care about this issue quite a bit, but I don't talk about it enough, and I should. So 4 Canadians have won the right to try magic mushrooms. Now, there is plenty of science out there showing the benefits of psychedelics on especially end-of-life patients, which is who these 4 Canadians, what they are. So let me give you, I'm going to get a little deeper into this story in a second here, but I want to tell you from personal experience. I did ayahuasca in Peru about five or 6 years ago now. It was an incredible experience. And it is a psychedelic much in a similar way to magic mushrooms. It allows you to view life outside of yourself, outside of your own ego. And it absolutely, I mean, just again, my personal experience, I'll get to some of the data and science in a second here as well. But from my personal experience, it's something that a lot of people, I think, need. A lot of people need that experience of having their ego dissolved and being able to truly see life and your experiences and yourself for what it is. And it gives you so much insight into your own life. And apparently, that's exactly part of the reason why these 4 Canadians wanted it. So let me show you the story here from CBC. So 4 Canadians with terminal cancer win right to try magic mushrooms. And I do think someday, once we have policy based on science, it's going to be legalized for medicinal use. I don't think it's something that, recreational, we can have that discussion in 50 years. But in the meantime, at least we have to focus on the medicinal benefits of magic mushrooms. So let me here we go. So one of the patients here, this is Lori Brooks. Let me read a bit about her experience with magic mushrooms. So she said, Brooks said she could never have imagined becoming an advocate for magic mushrooms until very recently. She hadn't ever tried an illegal drug, but things changed a year ago when she learned her cancer had returned. Her doctor gave her 6 months to a year to live if she didn't undergo another punishing round of radiation, chemotherapy, and surgery. Quote, "It was pretty distressing," Brooks said. "The idea of not being around and all the plans that my husband and I had for our life. Now that the kids are grown, everything we wanted to do went out the window, and our lives were turned upside down and backwards again." She was angry and anxious and couldn't sleep at night, and she dreaded the physical ordeal she knew lay ahead during another round of treatment. She says, quote, I did my psilocybin trip last October, and immediately afterwards, I was able to see my cancer in a box beside me on the floor instead of this black cloud hanging over me all the time, Brooks said. One more quote here. So she experienced these lasting effects after just that one trip. So to Brooks' surprise, she says her cancer has stayed in that metaphorical box through the last 10 months of treatment. In fact, that one psychedelic trip made such a difference that she's not sure whether it's even necessary to take psilocybin again. But she's fighting for this not just for her. She says here, hopefully this allows other people to get that exemption faster. And hopefully it's the start of something really great where therapists can use it with their clients, she said. So there is so much damn information, research, science. It's the kinds of hoops that people have to jump through to prove that something works when it comes to a natural plant. In this case, a mushroom, is absolutely ridiculous compared to how, pharmaceuticals are manufactured and just shot right through to approval because there is a for-profit motive involved. But here, you can do your own research. I just have a couple links here that I'll link below the video as well when I cut this out of the live stream. But here, researchers believe psychedelic drugs could help combat depression and addiction. Here's how magic mushrooms affect your brain. So they have a short breakdown here that's just worth reading. So it increases activity in the visual cortex, leading to changes in perception, and it decreases network activity in the default mode network, driving the experience of ego loss. Researchers believe it's the combination of these effects that makes psilocybin an effective tool for combating depression and addiction, for which research shows support. So yeah, it's not only great for people that are that are experiencing depression or anxiety, but also for addiction. And saying that can shock people, because a lot of people have this view of drugs as cocaine, alcohol, magic mushrooms, MDMA, ayahuasca. These are all the same thing because they're all drugs. No, they are all very different and should be treated as such. So when you have mountains of evidence showing the benefits in controlled studies of people using this to improve, whether it's end of life or depression or anxiety or addiction, to just completely ignore that and understand and ignore that this is, in the case of Lori Brooks, at least one treatment, one single treatment, and it having this long-lasting effect, to just ignore that is ridiculous. Another study here from The Guardian, or a report from The Guardian. They broke my mental shackles. Could magic mushrooms be the answer to depression? New trials have shown the drug psilocybin to be highly effective in treating depression, with Oakland the latest U.S. city to, in effect, decriminalize it last week. Some researchers say it could become indefensible to ignore the evidence, but how would it work as a reliable treatment? So this also reminds me, yes, Oakland has decriminalized it. I believe Denver has as well, though I'm not positive. But I think a couple of U.S. cities, Oakland and another city, has decriminalized it. So, look, it's starting at least. There's at least an awareness that this is not something, at the very least, not something to be criminalized over. But also, we have to, I think it's important that we all discuss this. If you are aware, if you've had your own experience or know of this research or whatever it is, discuss with people in your life. Educate other people who have just had this narrow view on drugs their entire lives. And look, I'm not saying it's for everyone. It's not. If you're happy and your life is great, you don't have depression, don't have anxiety, aren't dealing with anything, then you don't need it. But that's why something like this can be used medicinally to benefit so many people. But the fact that it's still illegal in most places prevents the people that need it most from getting it. All right. Maps.org. Yes. T.O. in the chat. Thank you for sharing that. Maps.org is a great resource for psychedelics. Check that out. All right. Next story. Wait, let me check if there's chats. There are. All right. Tory LaFrance says progressives need to flip the Senate so Bernie becomes the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. Medicare for All can be done through budget reconciliation, says Bernie. He has said that. I know there's been, I don't know enough about the process, so I can't back him up or refute it. But I have seen people try and refute that. They may just be refuting it because they're anti-Medicare for All. But absolutely, try everything. If progressives can flip the Senate, of course, that will be beneficial, not just for Medicare for All, but for the entire platform in general. Megan Anderson sends a super chat, says, thank you, Megan. Much appreciated. Ekaterina McGuire says, sorry I missed your intro. Will you be covering 800 Bernie Sanders delegate vote no on Democratic Party platform? I saw this on Status Quo. I didn't even see that story. I'm not covering it, but awesome. Actually, I saw Ro Khanna also is voting against it. Yeah, there's no reason to vote for the platform. At the same time, understand the platform really doesn't mean anything. It's the kind of thing where, Nomiki Konst has talked about this before, where a lot of energy is put into it, but the reality is, regardless of what the platform is, Biden doesn't have to follow it. So oftentimes there are, oftentimes that the platform that is voted on has nothing at all to do what the administration actually goes on to do. So they're not really connected. It's more of like a suggestion or something to point to. But yeah, of course, vote against it. There's no Medicare for All. There's no anything in there. It's a garbage platform. One more chat before moving on. Ravi Premi with a big super chat. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Says, hello, brother. Sending some love. Sending some love. Feels like love. Says, sending some money before the paychecks run out. Thank you. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you for the love and the cash. All right. Next story. All right, good. We're moving on to a happy story. Not that the last one wasn't a little uplifting, but this one is just kind of fun, as it involves Mr. Jason Johnson. Remember him? Oh, yeah. He's back. Jason's back with a vengeance. All right, man. Okay. To prep myself for this one. Bernie Sanders staffer Warren Gunnels absolutely dismantled Jason Johnson and his ridiculous series of tweets, once again attacking Bernie Sanders long after he's out of the primary race. Now, if you forgot about Jason Johnson, this is the guy that was banned from MSNBC. He was kicked off MSNBC after labeling Sanders' aides as a, quote, island of misfit black girls. So he was kicked off, but then once the primary was over and, everything looked, it was all clear for MSNBC to hire him back, brought back on the air. He's now on there regularly. But let me show you what he recently put out on Twitter. So this was August 14th, 9 a.m. He tweets out saying, We know Trump is trying to destroy the USPS by having DeJoy remove sorting machines, cut back hours, and increase the cost of stamps for mail-in ballots. I covered this recently. We also know DeJoy can be removed by the USPS Board of Governors. But how did we get here? You may not like the answer. Let's see where he goes with this. So the BOG is supposed to have 9 members, but they operated with an emergency committee and without a quorum for years because several Obama appointees to the committee were blocked. Who were they blocked by? Senator Bernie Sanders. Bernie, why did you block? Why did you block them? It's all your fault, Bernie. What's happening right now with the post office? Bernie, it's all your fault. We'll get to why that's not true in a second. But this is what he's saying so far. Sanders was concerned that the USPS BOG would continue to slash services and hurt employees, so he was widely reported as blocking Obama's nominees. So much so that by December 2016, there was only one Board of Governor member left. Trump has filled the positions in subsequent years. Bernie, what did you do? It was well-meaning policy on Sanders' part, but the problem is 4 years later, it's given Trump almost total control of the only oversight that could stop DeJoy from rigging the fall elections. The Inspector General for the USPS can't remove him, and the Board of Governors is loyal to Trump. Now, look at the framing. Before I get to Warren Gunnels completely dismantling this BS, look at the framing of this. Bernie, there's a reason. I mean, he even points out the reason. Bernie was concerned about slashing services and hurting employees. That's why he stood against Obama appointing the people that he wanted to put on there. But instead of blaming Obama and the Democrats for wanting to slash services in the post office, he blames Bernie Sanders for standing up for those workers. This is 100% conservative framing. And if you don't believe me, look at the article that he links to. So he links to this article in The Hill. Post offices lose another $5.1 billion. Bernie continues to prevent. Wow. I wonder who wrote this. Well, if we scroll down, we see that Brian McNichol, former senior writer for the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank, and director of communications for the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, is a conservative columnist based in Reston, Virginia. Conservative. Heritage Foundation. That's who Jason Johnson is citing to attack Sanders. This article is attacking Bernie Sanders because he is preventing the post office from being privatized. He is preventing the destruction of U.S. postal workers. He's on the side of the union. That's why this was written in the way that it was written. And Jason Johnson either knows that or he just completely fell for it. So let me show you Warren Gunnels, because he goes into way more detail here with context. Warren Gunnels, longtime Bernie staffer, tweets out here saying, "This is one of the most absurd takes of all time. The postal nominees Bernie blocked wanted to privatize the postal service, end 6-day mail, undermine unions, cut jobs, pension and healthcare benefits, and lobbied for the payday lending industry. Facts matter, Jason." More to this. Meet the postal nominees Bernie blocked. James Miller, Ronald Reagan's OMB director who wanted to privatize the postal service. Mickey Barnett, a GOP payday lending lobbyist. Stephen Crawford, who wanted to end Saturday mail and slash jobs, pensions, and healthcare benefits. These postal nominees were opposed by Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, American Postal Workers Union, AFL-CIO, AFS-CME, NAACP, National Council of La Raza, SEIU, and National Urban League. Read what they had to say about these nominees. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but here, let me give you, if I can read this paragraph. It's tiny writing. On behalf of the undersigned organizations, we write to express our opposition to the confirmation of the current slate of nominees to the Board of Governors of the U.S. Postal Service. It is our understanding that the Senate will consider as a package the 4 nominees approved by the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs on May 6, 2015. Our organizations are in agreement that it would be preferable to continue with a stripped-down Board of Governors than to fill those vacancies with a slate that includes nominees whose policy stance would be harmful to the USPS and ultimately to the public it serves. Bernie Sanders standing with the workers, standing with the post office. Yet, no, he puts the blame on Sanders for doing that. Squarely, the blame should squarely be put on the Obama administration and Democrats for attempting to privatize and cut aspects of the Postal Service. But this is what these frauds do. They pretend to be fighting for the average person, when in reality, these are Democratic operatives towing the corporate party line, and they don't give a shit about the average person. All right. That was the fun story. Man. These careers, that's what they are. Do whatever they have to do to have a career, to get on television, to create a name for themselves. They don't care what they're destroying in the wake of it. All right. Another chat here. Javier Ramirez says, your opinion on the general strike. So I have not followed the news on this. I saw it trending. I'm all for it, of course. Absolutely down for a general strike. I mean, if there's a time to do it, it's during a pandemic where it's not safe to go out anyways. So yeah, I'm down for a strike. Ravi Prime Yen says the only adversary that Trump can fight with his bone spurs is the USPS. Yes. He's doing his best to try and help his chances in the election by destroying the Postal Service. All right. Still an AOC story coming up. Ed Markey story coming up. Let me get to the AOC story first. New member, Tomas Mundo, welcome. Apologies if I missed any other members. Sometimes if I'm like in the middle of a video or a segment, I do not see new members. But Jenny, another new member earlier, Jenny Nix, welcome, Jenny. So that's all I can see in front of me. But thank you. Okay. I both hate. I both hate and like this story. As you're going to see, there's some potential to it, if that makes any sense. So the Democratic National Convention is next week. There's going to be speeches 2 hours a night. I believe it's 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And Monday to Thursday. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of the speakers, which I was surprised to see. There was some debate ahead of time, some rumors saying that there was an internal debate about whether or not she would actually be allowed to speak. Well, she's allowed to speak, but she gets 60 seconds. She gets to speak for 60 seconds. This is supposed to be a speech. So the Headline here from New York Post, AOC given just 60 seconds to deliver pre-recorded message to DNC. This makes me worry a little bit about maybe them having to approve the message first before she's allowed to, or before they post it themselves. So clearly they're going to see it before she posts it. Maybe that'll limit her ability to say what she wants to say. Who knows? But you got to point out here, a literal Republican, John Kasich, is going to get more speaking time at the DNC than every member of the squad combined. Tweet here from Ken Klippenstein. There's no defending this. John Kasich, former Republican governor, is being given more time than AOC. And on top of that, there's no Rashida Tlaib, no Ilhan Omar, no Nina Turner, no Cornel West. Nobody with any ability to actually excite people at all, except for Bernie Sanders and AOC at the convention. I mean, they have spots for, Buttigieg, Chris Coons, these people that have no audience, almost no support, yet they get more time to speak than AOC, who clearly, look, if you hate her, you're likely a conservative, but love her or hate her, you can't ignore that she's popular. You can't ignore that's where the energy of the party is. But the DNC here trying to ignore it. Now, AOC responded with this fantastic quote saying, "I only have a minute, 60 seconds in it, forced upon me. I did not choose it, but I know that I must use it. Give account if I abuse it, suffer if I lose it. Only a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it." Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, and recited by Elijah Cummings. So I think AOC is going to utilize every second of these 60 seconds. And to give you an example, I went back in my videos to check out different clips I had covered of AOC. This is 49 seconds. So you can add 11 seconds on top of this, but this is 49 seconds. Look at the point that AOC is able to make about universal health care in just 49 seconds.
This is a commodity. Her daughter's life was not. People's lives are not commodities. When we talk about economics, there's something known as a demand curve with elasticity. And with every other commodity, you can say, how much is this phone worth to you? And you can say $100, $200. You can buy a Nokia phone. You can not have a phone at all. But you cannot ask the question, how much will you pay to be alive? How much will you pay to live? Because the answer is everything. The answer is you will pay $10, you will pay $1,000, you will go into debt, you will do anything to live. And that is what makes the price of medicine different than the price of an iPhone. Thank you very much.
49 seconds. And AOC makes a very, I think, incredible argument for universal health care. Why it cannot be treated the same way as any other commodity. Because people need health care to live. So they will pay whatever they can to live. So how does it make sense to saddle people with mountains of debt just because they got sick? It doesn't make sense. And she communicates that here in 49 seconds. So obviously, it would have been better if she had more than a minute to talk. There's no way of defending that. But I think she will be able to utilize these 60 seconds to make a solid argument for whatever the hell she says. Now, it may just be for Joe Biden. Who knows? And the unfortunate part, as I mentioned earlier, she may be handicapped by the fact that it's going to be a pre-recorded message and the DNC is going to see it before they air it. So who knows what she'll actually say. But we do know, judging by this, that AOC has the ability to say something profound in under a minute. So let's see how she uses those 60 seconds next week. And of course, do I have to mention the obvious? This is the perfect representation of why the Democratic Party does not give a shit about people on the left. Does not give, not even, forget the left, forget left, right, center. Does not give a shit about the average person. People like AOC, like Ilhan Omar, like Rashida Tlaib, like Bernie Sanders, stand up for the average individual, the average person, the average family. And that's represented in how they campaign. Small dollar donors. Issues like Medicare for all. Canceling student debt. Ending military or U.S.-backed wars. I mean, there are like the entire platform of these members of Congress, of Bernie Sanders, the entire platform is designed around lifting up the average individual. And there's just no denying that. Yet, we continue playing this game, or at least mainstream press continues playing this game, and the Democratic Party continues playing this game of acting like, well, you know, you got to think about both sides. You got to think about both sides. Got to think about the corporate side, which has an entire, has their claws deep into Congress. And, you know, occasionally we'll think about the average individual will have some means-tested program that they can, you know, apply for and maybe get some help. But ultimately, got to serve our masters first before anybody else. And it is a disgusting system, disgusting party. But that is why you got to keep primarying out these prominent members. I mean, AOC took out Joe Crowley, somebody who was in line to be the next speaker. Jamal Bowman took out Elliot Engel. Cori Bush took out Lacey Clay. Lacey Clay, a dynasty, part of a 50-year dynasty in St. Louis. So if you can take out people like that, you can take out the rest. So unfortunately, it's a slow process because of the money aspect of it. There isn't an unlimited amount of small dollars for people. These are campaigns raised on individual or on small dollar donors. But they're making serious progress. And at the same time, as I discussed in my video today with Cornel West, also build outside pressure. Build a movement party or a people's party. Builds that outside pressure as well at the same time. So I'm always for the all-the-above approach. Do everything at once. Primary Democrats while also building outside pressure through movements and through parties, and also unionization as well. Very important to building labor interests and being able to put that kind of pressure through unions on people in power. So there's all different ways to apply your power to the system to try and push for change. But understand it's an all-the-above approach. So, never fall into the trap of like poo-pooing somebody's strategy, because just because you aren't in that camp, say you are a People's Party person. If you're in that camp, great, do your thing. But don't shit on people trying to primary Democrats out of Congress. Like, you should be for an all-the-above approach. It's important to be. It's important that the left is unified in that and understanding in that. That we need to look at this in various ways and understand that your power isn't just every 4 years with the presidential election. It's between elections. It's building that energy, building that momentum. Local races, state races. Obviously, everything else I said with unions and various progressive organizations. There's various ways to build your power up and enact it. Okay. Let me grab some chats. Harry C. Smith says, anyone know what/who the plan is for Harris's soon likely vacant Senate seat? So the governor gets to appoint who fills that seat. So Gavin Newsom. Who knows who he's going to pick? He could also call a special election instead, though with COVID, it's unlikely he will do that. So it seems more likely that he will simply appoint somebody, and then that person will sit in that seat until 2022. Excuse me. And then at that point, there'll be an election for whoever fills that seat. But look, I think several obvious people come to mind. Ro Khanna, congressman in California, Barbara Lee, congresswoman in California, and Karen Bass. So who was just up for potentially the VP spot. So I tend to lean with Barbara Lee or Ro Khanna. I'm just more familiar with their politics. I think they've had a more consistent record. Barbara Lee being the only vote against the war in Afghanistan. Ro Khanna being a more recent person in this fight, a campaign co-chair for Bernie Sanders in 2020, this year. So, in that sense, maybe I side more with Ro Khanna because he's younger. If he gets that seat, he'll be in that seat for a while. But I don't know. Like when it comes to who Gavin Newsom's going to pick, I don't think it's going to be anybody good. And whoever that person is likely is going to have the benefit of staying in that seat for a couple of years before having to fight for it again. Juna McGrath says, I'm a little late, but did you see that new Ed Markey ad? It was so fire it gave Ben Shapiro's wife WAP. I did see it, and I'm going to play it in, I believe it's the next segment. So coming up very soon, I will play that Ed Markey ad. It is fantastic. Miranda Jouvin says, strike, 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 strike. Eat the rich, liberty and justice for all. But most of all, much love for David, Bernie, AOC, and y'all. Thank you, Miranda. Great super chat. The Sing on the left says they don't want her gaining more popularity. Shake my head. Referring to AOC and her 60-second speech. Yeah, that is definitely part of it. Miranda Jouvin says, did you see AOC's response on Twitter to Trump's rambling phone call on Fox regarding how she wasn't a good student, not smart, blah, blah, so epic? Yeah. You know what? Maybe I can pull it up really quickly. It's not something really worth doing a video over. But if I can find it... here we go. Let me show you this. So, yeah, first I'll show you what Donald Trump said. You know what? Maybe I'll try and make a quick video out of this. Let's do it. Let's do it really quickly. This may even be like a 3-minute video or like a 2-minute video, but you know what? It's worth it. Why does Twitter do this weird load thing? What the hell was that about? Doing it again. Okay, well, if I can't play the video, then it's going to be a problem. Is the internet working? All right. May be an issue. Okay, but it plays here. All right. Let's just do it this way. So AOC shot back at Donald Trump on Twitter over transcripts. So let me show you how this all started with Donald Trump apparently calling AOC a poor student.
He is going to give not tax increases, massive tax increases to pay for AOC's plan. AOC was a poor student. I won't say where she went to school. It doesn't matter. This is not even a smart person, other than she's got a good line of stuff. I mean, she goes out and she yaps. These guys, and they're all afraid of her, because if you notice, all of these progressives are beating the regular Democrats. You know,
Okay, so there you go. Donald Trump on his usual bullshit, you know. AOC, poor student, not even a smart person. She yaps, you know, the usual. So AOC shot back and tweeted out saying, let's make a deal, Mr. President. You release your college transcript, I'll release mine, and we'll see who was the better student. loser has to fund the post office, referring to the fact that Donald Trump has been working to destroy the post office ahead of the election, as Trump is worried about mail-in balloting benefiting him, benefiting Biden in November. So I believe there is reporting discussing how Trump, there definitely is. Book out recently. Trump's niece, her name now has escaped me, but Trump's niece released a book discussing how Trump hired somebody to take the SATs for him. So gives you a little window into who Donald Trump is, and it's not surprising at all that he would do that. I mean, this is a guy who clearly does not know what the hell is going on. He's not a bright individual. This is not a man who is book smart. He may know how to market himself, or at least did at one point, but he is not somebody who would take a test well. So I would love to see how his transcript lines up with the AOC's, but of course he's not going to do that. But if Trump actually had good grades, why wouldn't he do this? What's the downside? But we all know he's not. Mary Trump, that's her name. Yes. But I don't care enough. Whatever. When that book came out, I thought about doing some videos on it. I don't think I ever did. When I do 2 videos a day, there's only so much drama I want to focus on. So I try to reserve my drama for people like Dave Rubin or Ben Shapiro, where I could just laugh in their face. Trump, if it's widely reported enough, there's no reason for me to really cover it. Okay. Let me prep this next story. Now we are going to be getting to the Ed Markey ad that everybody's been talking about. I think there's been like 3 super chats now mentioning this Ed Markey ad. And for good reason. It is one fantastic ad. All right. All right. So, as you likely know by now, Joe Kennedy III is challenging Ed Markey for Senate in Massachusetts. I've covered this race a couple times already in past videos. Joe Kennedy is he's a Kennedy. He's only in this race because he's a Kennedy. He is pretending to be something that he's not. So he has a very pro-corporate, very status quo record in Congress. He is now pretending that he is to the left of Ed Markey, which is just absolutely hilarious. And Ed Markey right now, I'm going to get to, how he's doing in the polling. Looks pretty good for Ed Markey at the moment. I'm also going to get to a couple clips from a recent debate between Ed Markey and Joe Kennedy that happened on the same day that Kamala Harris was announced as the VP. So this debate was, completely ignored. But I'll get to a couple clips from that. But first, there is a campaign ad that everybody's talking about. Ed Markey's new campaign ad. It is fantastic. So let me just play this for you, and we will discuss that before moving on to the other issues. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go full screen for you guys that are watching live here, just so you can see the whole thing.
There's an invisible contract we all signed at birth, a promise. Every hour we work means longer days of freedom and security. It paved the road in your neighborhoods, and it added up to a country. But when crisis hit, Trump's government abandoned America. We asked what we could do for our country. They looked for what they could take. But there's a truth written in every history book. If you break the sacred contract, the people make a revolution. All across America, the essential people are demanding a new deal. Well, they call me the deal maker.
Ed Markey's desk was thrown out in the hall by the State House bosses. Markey's bill is now the law.
I'm Ed Markey. I'm running for Congress because I want to fight for the principles that I believe in. The bosses may tell me where to sit. No one tells me where to stand.
My father was a union leader. He taught me, don't beg for your rights, organize and take them. So in January, I was the first senator to write to Trump. I warned him, we needed a plan. I talked to the Democrats and the Republicans. I told them, we've got to save the fishermen. A month later, we had $300 million for our fishing industry. Trump wanted to cheap out, but I helped negotiate $600 a week for any American struggling to find their next gig. They thought the son of a milkman couldn't learn the rules. I made new ones. I don't need to get on the phone and talk to lobbyists to know what working people think. I get on the streets and I listen.
I've got a question for 1 million people. Do you want to freeze the arms race?
I put the deal on the table, but the people make it impossible to refuse. With 500 laws on the books, you think I'm going to stop now? They wish.
Green New Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Ed Markey introduced their Green New Deal
to stop climate change and create millions of good jobs in the process.
We got to absolutely crush Donald Trump in November. But if we're going to end this era of chaos, that won't be enough. We got to make sure President Biden signs the Green New Deal. We can't wait.
You got to have folks in the United States Senate who are willing to stand up for working people. That's who Ed Markey is. I need Ed Markey in the United States Senate.
We asked what we could do for our country. We went out. We did it. With all due respect, it's time to start asking what your country can do for you.
All right. Amazing. Now, I guess before I even move on to this, that ad was already amazing, and then on top at the end he remixes that JFK quote. I mean, this is somebody that not only deserves to win this race, but somebody I think we should maybe pay a little more attention to. Ed Markey, people try to attack him over certain votes he's had in the past, like 20 years ago. Okay, he had, some bad votes 30, 20 years ago. Who cares? Joe Kennedy has taken a ton of corporate money, didn't even support the decriminalization of marijuana until this year, because he said back in 2018, Kennedy said back in 2018 that he thinks marijuana, it's good that it's illegal because it allows the cops to search your car. And if you think I'm joking, look that up. Look, Joe Kennedy, marijuana, search your car, look that up. You will find that quote. It is crazy. And this is the guy that's claiming he's to the left of Ed Markey? So obviously, Ed Markey deserves your support here. Let me show you a recent poll that gives me some hope. So Markey leads Kennedy by 15 points in Massachusetts Senate primary. So this is a University of Massachusetts Amherst UCVB poll. So the reason why this is so, apart from the result, but the reason why this is so awesome is because back in, I believe, February, if I can find it here. So wait, including leaners, Markey tops Kennedy 51 to 36, a 12-point increase of his February lead of 43 to 40. So several months ago, it appeared like it was a close race. And I had also heard about either some other polling or some internal polling that Kennedy was actually ahead of Markey. But since the debates, there's been several debates now. I've covered at least, I think, 2 of them. I'm about to cover another one here. But there's been several debates. People are getting a little more familiar with Kennedy on the state level as opposed to just, in his district. And they clearly see a guy who's completely phony. I mean, if you watch any Joe Kennedy clip, it's like watching a man who, grew up watching people in his family on television doing politics, and he's just imitating that, and he doesn't actually stand for anything. Clearly, based on his record, he doesn't. He just pretends to. Now, going deeper into this poll, I wanted to bring these up because I find that these funny and interesting. So these were a couple of word clouds that came with the results of this poll. So what one word would you use to describe each of the following? So Ed Markey gets, at least in the positive sense, dedicated, good, old, progressive, steady. I don't know why experienced is in red. Is that supposed to be a negative? Experienced. Smart, liberal, decent, reliable. So I guess it's just a mix of red and blue here. But go down to Kennedy. Entitled, ambitious, young. These all just explain somebody who is a careerist. So this is the exact kind of politician you want to push out of Congress. You don't want people like this in power. People that are obsessed with their, first of all, entitled, obviously, him being a Kennedy, the only reason he's even in this race. Young, I guess that could be taken negative or positive. I don't really know. Ambitious, though, again, this is not about the opportunist, privileged, a Kennedy, rich is here. Here, smart, there's a positive one. Smart, but clearly this is not somebody who's viewed as a person that cares about the average individual. Whereas I think, dedicated, experienced, progressive, reliable, this is somebody that you can actually see is viewed based on what they've actually done or their existence in that state, being old, but viewed as somebody who's, at least a progressive, good politician as opposed to somebody who is just a careerist. Now, let me get to a couple of quick clips here. This is from the recent debate that they had, and Ed Markey here doing a solid job.
Congressman Kennedy, when he uses the word change, he means something.
For the live audience, the audio on this is just ridiculous. Channels or whoever posted this, they don't understand. You want the audio peaking at -6 dB. Apparently, this is hard for a lot of people to get. It makes listening very unenjoyable if the audio is all over the place. So hopefully it's fixed now.
Congressman Kennedy, when he uses the word change, he means something different. He's changed his position on Medicare for all. He's changed his position on PROMESA, which is hollowing out Puerto Rico. He's changed his position on the issue of super PACs. He's changed his position on the racist fraternity. That's his own words, that he was in for 20 years and he only left that fraternity 1 month before this campaign began, and it is a fraternity inspired by Robert E. Lee.
So again, Kennedy doesn't have any real ideology, at least in the sense that he doesn't have any consistent record of standing up for the average person. Sunrise Movement says here, changes stance on Medicare for all, Puerto Rico, super PACs, and Ed Markey points all these out. But this is somebody who has just now recently, in Kennedy, pretended to be for the average individual when he has not been in the past. One more clip here from this debate.
I introduced the Green,
which I have to fix again.
I introduced the Green New Deal with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a year and a half ago, so that we would have real environmental justice in our country as we solved the problem of climate change for the planet, that we would save all the creation by engaging in massive job creation. But Alexandria and I, we made sure in the Green New Deal, which was criticized, by the way, not just by Republicans and Fox News, but it was criticized by many Democrats as well, just going too far. Because we talked about intersectionality. We talked about frontline communities. We talked about people of color. We talked about how those who are in the most polluted situations invariably are the poorest. They're the immigrant families, and we could see that during the coronavirus. So when I introduced that bill, yeah, it was poo-pooed in certain circumstances, but it seems prescient today. And by the way, the same thing is true about Medicare for all. When I stood next to Bernie in 2017, introducing Medicare for all, Congressman Kennedy took 2 years to sign on to Medicare for all. That now looks like predictive of where we are right now. Millions of people have lost their health care. We're 47th in the world in life expectancy. We're 38th in health outcomes. Last year, 2/3 of all bankruptcies were because of health care bills. Medicare for all now looks like it's a bill that has its time, that has arrived, the same as the Green New Deal. That is the leadership that I provide, building movements across our country so that we can have the fundamental change which our country wants and needs.
So that is leadership. Standing up for issues when they are maybe unpopular, at least in some circles, but standing up for those issues, even though they're unpopular, but standing up for them because you know they are the right thing to do. Standing up for Medicare for all, standing up for the Green New Deal. That's what Ed Markey has done. Joe Kennedy just recently now, I think he supports Medicare for all of a sudden. The Green New Deal, I'm not even sure his position on that, but like we're talking about somebody who is, sometimes I feel like I'm talking to a wall because this is like, if you see, I wish I had actually some clips here of Kennedy, because if you see Kennedy, he is so phony. He is just your standard politician, just going where the wind blows, doesn't actually care about any of these issues, saying what he thinks might get him elected, chasing power. That's all he is doing. And the only reason, again, I have to mention this, the only reason he is challenging Ed Markey here is because his last name is Kennedy, which meant that he thought he had a shot in this race. And maybe he still does. I mean, the polls were close earlier in the year, but you see now when people actually are getting a taste of the differences between each candidate and what they've stood for, I mean, this is the result. Markey leads Kennedy by 15 points. So let's hope this carries. Let's hope this energy carries into September. If you're in Massachusetts, make sure you vote. I don't know how else to say it. Make sure you vote for Ed Markey. Okay. That ad. Who made that ad? Do they say here? Like who produced that? Just his team? Because man, they got some talent on that team. That was a good ad. All right. Can't tell if I heard thunder or if the people above me are dragging their chair. I think it's the latter. Okay. So that's it for the set stories. Let me grab some super chats first, and then I will show you stories that I was working on, including I was discussing earlier a story that took all the energy out of me. So I stopped. I stopped working on it because I didn't want to waste my energy on it. But I will show you what that was. First here, let me grab some of these chats. Just finding my place here. Here we go. Adrian Thomas, have you addressed the Shahid Buttar allegations recently? I have not addressed them recently. I addressed them, I think it was brought up last week on a live stream. Before I knew much about it, I watched the Humanist Report, his coverage on it. Perfect. That gives you the breakdown you need. He also recently interviewed Shahid Buttar. I have not seen that interview yet, so I don't have, the most recent information or the most recent, defense from him. But watch Mike Figueredo, the Humanist Report. Watch his breakdown of the allegations. That's all you need. Of course, you can do your own research as well and go more into it. I don't think it's much of anything. I don't. I do want to see his the most recent interview he had with Mike, so I'll check that out. Because there was still some allegations that are at least worth addressing, in the sense that people that work for him, at least one person who was public about it, discussed how I guess it was kind of a toxic work environment, and he could have been a better leader in that sense. But that isn't a reason to end your campaign. Like I discussed this last week with Klobuchar. Klobuchar is known to be horrible to work for, and the allegations don't even appear to come close to what Klobuchar did. But Klobuchar known to be horrible to work for. No one's calling her to step down and be replaced because of that. I want her to get out for other reasons because of her politics, but not going to ask her to step down because she's been a horrible boss occasionally. So yeah, there's not much to it, honestly. It's someone that worked for him that didn't feel like they were being heard. Okay, that's like almost every workplace. And look, that isn't to excuse his behavior in the sense that, the moments that he's had, I guess there's been emotional up and downs that have affected the staff. Okay. Yeah, it's not a great environment. Not downplaying that. But to then say, to carry that over to saying that he should drop out, which is what that letter said. The Medium post said that he should drop out of the race because of it. That's ridiculous. No. But again, I want to see his interview with Mike. But for me, it's not something even worth discussing. In a separate video, I mean. Ken Clive says America's decline looks like, and by the way, I don't make it sound like I'm dismissing it. I'm saying it's not worth me discussing it in a separate video because Mike's breakdown was so thorough and perfect in the sense that now that I've watched this video, I can't add anything to that. So watch this video. It's a good breakdown. Ken Clive says America's decline looks a lot like my home country, India. Widespread poverty, corrupt two-party politics, ruthless law enforcement, and zero safety nets. I mean, yeah, if that's how you describe India, that's exactly the description of the U.S. right now. D Big Fish 1988 sends me a cool one-up emoji. Awesome. Thank you, Big Fish. Mike Parquette says, have you seen the video of trucks snatching up USPS drop boxes in Portland? I have, and elsewhere. What effing country do I live in? Yes, I'm getting to that in a minute. That's one of the stories that I didn't really fully flesh out, so I didn't cover it in a proper segment today. But I do want to show you the one image I saw. I think there's more, but I saw one image at least. But let me first, since people may be wondering, the story that took energy out of me and why I stopped working on it. Let me show you exactly what that is, and maybe you'll understand what I'm talking about. So bring these links up first. Oh, that's the wrong link. All right. It was this. Scott Bixby. Here is a guy that writes for the Daily Beast. Is applauding Kamala Harris's digital army, the K-Hive, for doing the exact same thing that he attacked Bernie Sanders supporters for. So this is back in January. He had a story out, again, same reporter, saying Bernie bros are loud, proud, and toxic to Sanders' campaign. Yet when it comes to Kamala Harris, August 12th, Kamala Harris built a digital army. Now she gets to use it. And this entire thing is just... Look at this image. Is there an image on this one? Screaming Bernie bro. But like... Angel Kamala Harris. Like, really. It's over the top absurd. The quotes in here and everything. I started reading this and I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm out. I could not bring myself to cover this properly. Too much emotion here. It's the hypocrisy involved in the mind of this man when writing these pieces. Just, it is absurd, so absurd. And the people what was funny too, actually, the first person they quote. So this person, one of the Kamala Harris people here, being quoted as saying, let me zoom in a little more. Look at this freaking giant daily beast. They really want me to give them money. Not happening with this kind of reporting. Says there was so much misinformation and so much dogpiling on her throughout the primary and then down through this VP process, said Chris Evans, who under the 53,000 follower strong nommed at Twitter, not Captain America. I was like, oh, who's this guy? Blocked. I don't even know who this is. I don't know who this guy is. And he has me blocked. It's possible we had an interaction on Twitter in the past. I don't remember. I have no idea. No idea. But I'm blocked. I like how Whoopi Goldberg here is staring at me at the top. But I wonder why. Maybe I pointed out accurate arguments during the primary against Kamala. And I mean, the idea that she has this, and they go on to, like, this article goes on to talk about how Kamala Harris's army has remained when the others have fell apart. You want to tell me Kamala Harris's supporters online are still are louder or more frequent than Bernie Sanders supporters? You're crazy. You know that's not true. So this is just completely absurd. This article is written in some other land. So yeah, that's what took all the energy out of me, and I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna bother. But now let me get to important stuff. This, as a super chat pointed out recently, USPS removes mailboxes in Portland and Eugene, cites declining mail volume. Really? Because these mailboxes cost money to sit on the sidewalk? Like, what? But this is what they're having their hours cut. They are putting the trucks out there less frequently in delivering the mail. They're taking all these steps to cut down on. Oh, I think I covered this yesterday. I think I made the video yesterday. They are removing sorting machines, removing mail sorting machines from facilities that were going to help with sorting the vote by mail. So Trump here is taking active steps through his Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy, taking active steps to destroy the post office before the election as a way to cut down on mail-in balloting that I guess would likely lean more Democratic, at least in certain states. So that's what's happening right here. I haven't checked out this article, but I imagine it just goes deeper into this. Yeah. So this was posted by Mark Delaney. I think there are more. I think I've seen more images. But yeah, I covered yesterday how Trump said on Fox Business that by the post office not getting the money they need, then it's going to cut down on mail-in balloting. Just openly saying that what he's been saying the whole time about, you know, how he hates mail-in balloting, openly saying that he will benefit. He's benefiting. He's destroying the post office to benefit himself. Not even hiding it. So yeah, that's that story. And then on top of that, this also came out this morning. The U.S. Postal Service says it's unlikely there will be enough time to request, complete, and return mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania to be counted for the November 3rd presidential election. Unlikely there will be enough time to request, complete, and return these mail-in ballots. Look, this is a neo-fascist government. That's what this is. They are cutting down on your ability to vote. You can't call that democratic. They are actively working against your interests. So, which, me being that vague, of course, many governments do that in various ways. But cutting down your ability to vote, like, this is the one clear division between Democrats and Republicans. And if for not any other reason except for the fact that Democrats know that when turnout's high, they win. When turnout's low, Republicans win. So because Democrats know that, even if that's their motivating factor, and it's not because they love democracy, even if the motivating factor is simply because Democrats want to win, okay, fine. The end result is still that more people get to vote. You actually should have the legal right to vote. You should be able to, if you want to vote, you should be able to vote. Your vote should be counted. Bottom line. That's how it works in every other democracy. So this is above and beyond anything. And it shows you why this man needs to get out. But there it is. All right. Let me grab all the chats now. Get your super chats in if you want to send one in as we are winding down. And reminder again, as I said at the beginning of the stream, I am on Twitch tomorrow doing some gaming. Don't expect, the usual stream. This is a gaming stream, but of course I will talk with the people in the chat and have a good time. Likely playing Paper Mario, Fall Guys, and the Tony Hawk demo, and maybe something else. We will see. All right, where was I in these chats? Harry C. Smith said, Shahid claims... I don't know what that says. Look. Shahid claims look legit next to Alex Morris' snow job. Yeah, if you compare the two, like I don't know, they're both largely empty, but the Alex Morris one, especially, the Alex Morris one is 100% like developed in a lab. I mean, the College Democratic Party that released those allegations were apparently now working with Richard Neal's staff to release that bullshit, attacking Alex Morris for dating men his own age. That's the allegation. Dating men his own age. That I don't want to go into the whole thing, but I have a video on it. Watch the video. But that's essentially the allegation. It's completely absurd, and it's crazy that media jumped on top of it. Sanwal Yousaf says, any thoughts on the Canadian Green Party leadership elections? Any favorites? Asking as an outsider. Dimitri Lascaris is my favorite for that. In fact, let me see if he has an ad. I may try to grab an interview with him as well. I'm just notoriously horrible at grabbing interviews. But if I can find... Here, let me just give you his webpage, because the thing with these ads, you never know what kind of audio's on it. I don't want to get pulled down because there happened to be some song on this video, but if I can find his page, here we go. So right here. Team Dimitri, so he's running for the Green Party leadership. Out of everything I've seen, I am backing him. I'm not sure if I'm still a Green Party member. If I'm not, you have to sign up, I think, by early September, like September 3rd or something, so to be able to vote in this. So I will likely do that and back Dimitri. So check him out. He's been active in politics for a while. He's very vocal when it comes to foreign policy issues. He's solid. So check out Dimitri Lascaris if you're into Canadian politics or into this race. Check him out. Okay. Adam Bryceland says, hey, David, I'm sure you recognize my name since I donate a lot. I do recognize your name, Adam. Love the show. Let's wash out the GOP with a huge blue wave. Blue wave 2020, y'all. Exactly. I'm down. Yes. Yeah. That's the other important part about voting. The down ballot races. You do not want Republicans in control. You want Democrats in control, not because, they're going to work for you, but there is a marginal difference. And also because it allows you to put real pressure on Congress. If they actually have control and people begin to wonder, hey, well, Trump's out now. Why aren't things improving? Well, if Trump's gone, there's no excuses, and you could put the blame solely on Democrats and continue to build the movement and the fight against the Democratic Party, and or at least against the leadership in that sense, when people are aware that, or more people are aware that the Democratic Party is in the way of progress. Adam Bryceland also follows up saying, in regards to Trump and mail thing, they always asked in school, why didn't Germany stop Hitler? Maybe we should ask the same thing about Trump. Yeah, Trump's got to be stopped. Marcus XC94 says, better capital city to visit / live in, Ottawa or DC? Well, seeing as I have not lived in either, I've been to both. DC is nice to visit. I mean, look, I don't know. What you're really asking is Canada or the U.S. And right now, I mean, come on. Just got to look at the state of each country. Not that Canada is in the perfect place, because we're not. As a Canadian, there are plenty of complaints about Canada. But if you're going to put Canada beside the U.S. right now, this moment in time, I think anybody would feel safer, and in Canada, but also not even just safer. There's less inequality. Inequality definitely still exists here, especially when it comes to the Indigenous community and how they've been treated by our government and governments in the past. But by and large, Canada is just a better place to live in right now than the U.S. is. That said, I do love visiting Washington, D.C. It's a great city. Ottawa is probably the better place to live. DC is the better place to visit. How about that? So, Ottawa, the better place to live. DC, the better place to visit. Okay, one more chat. Radzoso says, I did shrooms a lot when I was a young man. They removed my filters and brought me out of my shell. Yes. All I can say on that is look at the science, look at the research. Don't trust me. Don't trust anybody else. But if you look at the data, the science, and read people's experiences in those studies, they say very similar things. Which is why we should move to decriminalize and legalize it for medicinal use. All right. Am I done? Just about done. One more refresh here. Remember, there's like a minute delay, so if you get a chat in late, I am sorry. If I miss it. All right, we're good. Perfect timing. About 2 hours. I am here again tomorrow, but not on YouTube, on Twitch, twitch.tv/The Rational National. The link is below the video. You will see the Twitch link in the description box. Follow me on there. I'll be chatting with the people, probably be drinking a little bit, having a good time, and playing some games. And then, of course, my morning Twitch show as well, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at twitch.tv/The Rational National. All right. Thank you all for coming, and see you this weekend or next week. Goodbye.